Hello, so this is a pair of Trickers boots, and what we're going to show you today is we're going to show you how to prep them, and we're going to show you how to add some character by adding two-toning effect to certain parts of these boots to give them character and to bring them back to life, completely recycling them, avoiding landfill, protecting our environment. So the first step, obviously, what we're going to do is the leather prep. With the leather prep, you need to remove as much of the old surface colour as you possibly can from the actual surface of the boots. And we're just going to sort of do a demonstration here. You'd spray into the cloth and then you would literally just wipe that over the boot, as you can sort of see, which is what we've already done to these, is to sort of prepare most of them already anyway. Once obviously we've got all the preparation stages done, we can then go on to the next stages, which is like the soles. You can sand all the sides of the soles once you've done all your prep stages, and what that's going to do, that's going to prepare them ready, because we're going to dye the sides of the soles. So that will get those dyed, the heel and the sole itself. They're going to be completely re-dyed on the sides to give them a completely brand new, fresh look. So we're going to go through and sand all those. This is, I think, an 80 grit sandpaper, so you can be quite fierce with it. You know, the solid leather, and they will take this sanding that we're doing here on the sides of the sole and the heel. So give them a really good scrub, open up the sort of leather so that they're able to absorb the new dye into it. As you can clearly see, it's really opened it up. And you're going to do that all the way around, obviously on both shoes, and complete that all the way around. You can see what that one's like. So I mean, that again will be sanded all the way around so that the new dye can be applied to the side of the sole and the side of the heel. So then once you've done that, just finish it off with a lighter sandpaper to remove any of the sort of roughness that it's created on the surface there. As you can see, we're going over here, sanding that smoother where it's got some rough edges. And these are like a 320 grit sort of paper, so you can see that's really nice and smooth now. And that's them sanded all the way around, ready to take the dye. And we're obviously going to use the pure dyes to do that, for going on the edge of there. So it's a complete dye, and we're going to use the wool dauber to apply that to the side of the actual heel and sole of the shoe. The reason for doing that, obviously, it's going to add protection. It's going to enhance the look of the shoe, you know, on these boots, and it's just going to make them look like brand new again. It's, you know, they were looking very lifeless, dull and drab, and, you know, this is a way of bringing them really back to life. Once you obviously soak this in the dye, obviously this is a pure dye, so you have to be very careful. You don't want to have it like drip, the wool dauber dripping, so you want to get most of the surface off. And as you can see there, that's going on, and you want to do that in nice sort of even strokes if you can, all the way around the heel, you know, in the sole, so that covers that really nicely and it soaks in. As you can, it's just going round, covering the whole thing as we go, and it's just re-dyeing the leather. Obviously, once that's dry, we can then sort of add other forms of protection on these as well to seal that dye in, because that's obviously going to dye the leather completely. So it's going right into the fibres of the leather and it's soaking right in. Obviously, the other option is to completely re-sole and re-heel the shoes to make them completely brand new once again, which is another option that you could do. And then obviously you could do the same process that we're doing here to those new sole and heel to give it character by adding this particular colour in, which is what we're doing. So obviously the wool daubers are brilliant for doing this, because they absorb all the dye and it sort of gets loaded up into the dauber, and it's really good for doing that. And it just makes it nice and even, stroking it all the way around the, you know, the heel and the sole, so that it makes it a nice perfect sort of colour all the way around. You can see automatically how that's making such a huge difference to the shoes. And just being careful, we will obviously apply the dye onto the shoe as well, on the areas that we actually need it, not the whole shoe, it's just the areas that we're going to need that, which we'll obviously be demonstrating to you shortly as well, so that you can see how that actually works. You can see that's dyed all the way around now. You would obviously do the same to the second shoe, to the second boot, as you can clearly see, which is what we've done there. Dry around with the hairdryer so that dries off all the dye completely, and then you'll be ready to go on to the next stages with the boots, with these Trickers boots, which is obviously applying some dye onto the different areas of the shoe, which is what we want to achieve next. So again, dab the dauber in. Bearing in mind this is a pure dye, so make sure you get off any excess on the actual dauber itself. You don't want it completely sodden and soaking wet. Get off some of the excess. And then we're going to just apply that to the shoe with the dauber. Not the whole complete shoe, but we're just going to apply it into certain areas. So I mean, the reason for doing this is it's going to add depth and character, because we're going to go over this with a different product once we've got this dye on here, and that's going to allow us to sort of build character into these Trickers boots and just bring them back to life again. This is obviously one of the methods of application. There are other methods of application as well that you could possibly use, but the daubers do work extremely well, you know, and give good coverage and allows it to soak in perfectly. You can mask up. We've obviously been doing this for some years, so we're able to sort of go around quite easily without getting on any of the sort of elasticated sides or any sort of fabric areas. If it has like fabric on it, then we would probably mask up against those. Whereas here we've got a really nice neat edge to work up to with the dauber, so it's absolutely perfectly fine. So that's getting the initial sort of coat of dye onto them. And again, just carefully going down the elasticated edge sides there, so that you're not getting any dye actually onto those as well. Just bring that down slowly, and just, it's about attention to detail really, more than anything. We've obviously got to let that soak in to the shoe as well, you know, so that these Trickers boots sort of get dyed properly how we want them. Because then we're going to put on some creams as well, some of the shoe creams, to give sort of character and build character into the shoes as well, into these boots. So you can see how they've come out and what it looks like with that dye going over the top. Now it's all completely dried. And then we're going to go over with the neutral. We're going to put this on by hand. We're actually going to physically use our fingers, obviously wear gloves. Same with applying the dye. You know, you really want to wear a glove because it's a pure dye. It will stain your hands, and they'll stay like that for some weeks if you're not careful, because it will dye your skin temporarily. So just get that massaged in. Any of the little sort of holes that it's getting into, don't worry about that, the sort of holes that it's getting into, the finer detail. We want to get some of the into there anyway to give it some protection onto the raw sort of edges of the leather. The reason why we're rubbing it in by hand is because we're trying to build character. So it's shifting some of the dye that was left on the surface around, and it's building some character into these as well. So we're just getting this sealed in first of all before we go to the next sort of stages of the shoes themselves. And this is obviously the neutral shoe cream that we're putting in here, which has got a very high content of beeswax in them. So it's giving fantastic protection, as well as a lot of other products that go into making these shoe creams, and that they're some of the finest shoe creams in the world, to be fair. And now we're going to use the sort of, it's a seam ripper actually, and we're just going to use the seam ripper just to get any build-up of waxes out of the holes. But we've now got it where we need it, which is to seal the raw edges within the holes and to protect the leather itself in there as well. So we're just going to carefully get any excess build-up out of those holes just by using the seam ripper there. You can use a toothpick if you wanted as well. And it's just getting all excess out. I'm just got to do that all over the shoe, and obviously to both of the boots, and get that sorted out and all the waxes picked out. You can see there, it's just pulling that out. You can see it coming out. You just got to do that to all of the brogan and get all that out. Obviously, you do the exact same thing to both of the boots. But these Trickers boots are going to come out looking absolutely fantastic once they're finished. It's going to really bring them alive and make them look superb once again. And you've got to deal with all the tiny little holes in the brogan areas, and obviously get all the waxes out of those as well. You can see the idea of what we've got to do to achieve that, and you'll do that over the whole shoe obviously. where it's got all that sort of detailing on it, just pull that back out. Now we're going to get some of the neutral cream put onto the heel and the side of the sole to lock in the dye that was obviously put on there. And again, we're going to rub that in by hand because that's going to build character into the side of the heel and the sole itself, you know, and we're just going to do that all the way around and just rub that in and build all that character up, and just try to rub some of the dye off, as well as obviously leaving the dye on there. So the reason for doing that is it's creating this sort of like patina aged look to them, which is going to be absolutely stunning once it's completed. So you can sort of see there the results of the shoes with having the neutral cream applied over the top of them with the dye that we put on them, and the sort of effects that it's created. So now we're going to go over with the shoe restorer cream, and we're going to apply some of this into different areas to build the two-toning work now that we need to build. And this is where they're going to really pop and come alive. So we're going to use the black here today, the black shoe restorer cream. Just a word of warning with these shoes are creams are very highly charged with a very strong, powerful dye. They're probably some of the most powerful cream dyes there is in the world, because they physically dye the leather. So you've got to bear that in mind. They actually do physically dye raw hide as well, raw leather. So we're just going to go around and apply the black into the areas that we need it applied to gain the patina and the sort of antiquing and the two-tone look that we want to sort of achieve. So you do not need to load the sponge with stacks of this cream. A small amount of cream goes a hell of a long way, as you can clearly see. So we're just applying this onto the toe, and we're just literally stippling that onto that toe at this moment in time. Because what we don't want to do is to sort of totally obliterate it and get rid of all of the dye that we put on there in the first place with the dauber, and cover that in its entirety. The whole idea of this is to almost give like a transparent look to it, to build the colour nicely as it's going along. And we're going to be doing that around certain parts of these tricker boots to build character into certain areas along the brogan lines. You can see there the difference that it's made on the toe already compared, you know, to the one on the right. So it's a matter of just doing this around wherever you want to achieve this sort of detailing. You just do it into the areas that you want. You could obviously get it sponged on into the areas that you need it. Just the reason for doing it around these lines is it's accentuating those lines and bringing those lines to life and making them stand out and give them real deep sort of character. So use your fingertip, rub that right into the line there, so it makes that line stand out. So that sort of detailing that you've got, it really does make that stand out completely. And it's going to look absolutely fantastic when it's done. You can see that it's just building the character into the shoe with the cream. And then obviously we're going to lock that in and seal it all over and give them a good brush up. So again, once this is all done, we'd go back over again with the neutral shoe cream, seal all of this black shoe cream in, and then give them a really good buff up with a natural horsehair brush. We have a couple of different types of shoe brushes. We have a sort of regular size, it's a biggish regular size shoe brush, and then we have an extra large shoe brush as well. So I mean, they're going to work on the sort of bigger areas like these boots. And you can see there the detailing that we've carried out. They look absolutely stunning, and it really has brought them alive. And we're just going around adding it to this area of the toe section. And once that's completed, you're going to see exactly, once that's polished up, you're going to see exactly what they look like once they're polished. They're going to look absolutely fantastic, because it's going to really, obviously it's going to polish them, it's going to shine them, and it's going to really make it come alive and look absolutely superb. It depends how much detailing you want to put on them as to how far you want to go. You know, you can add different colours on there as well if you wanted to. So if you wanted to add maybe like a maroon in certain areas, you could do that. As well as adding this black on there, you could then add like a maroon over it if you wanted to. And here we're just sort of like trying to get a little bit of detailing into the heel area. And as I said before when we did the toe, what we're not trained to do is to cover this in black completely. You can see there that you can still see the original colour shining through the black. And that's where you're going to get this really nice sort of patina, aging, antiquing coming through these Tricker boots. And they're going to look absolutely superb when they're done. And you can see there, they've got everything done. And now we're going to give them a really good brush up. And that's when you're going to see the finished results and how fantastic they're going to look. You've got to really vigorously rub them over with the brush. And you can see there as that's starting to shine and build the depth of shine and quality to them. And that's going to seal that in. Obviously, being a beeswax, the longer you leave this on, the better it is. So, I mean, if you were to leave this on, say, overnight, then obviously coming in next morning, it's going to make buffing a lot easier. And it's going to avoid spreading the shoe cream, the black shoe cream they put on there around to the rest of the shoe. It's going to keep it locked in that same position, and it's going to make that a lot easier. But just look at the detailing that's created and how that's transformed those really old, tired looking Tricker shoes. And they're just looking fantastic now. You can see the detail. It's brought them alive. I mean, most people would have put these in the bin or thought they were, fit for the trash can, landfill, and there's absolutely no need, because even with these being resold and rehealed, they would be literally like brand new again. But they're perfectly bedded in. They're a fantastic shoe to use. They're a good quality leather as well. And Trickers do make some amazing shoes and boots. And I mean, these are an amazing pair of Tricker boots that they've got here. But as you can see, the detailing is looking absolutely superb now. It's got that beautiful age, patina looking character that's built into it now, compared to before where they were just like the standard sort of even washed out colour. Now they're looking absolutely beautiful, and they're really getting a depth of shine to them. But that's obviously using the horsehair brush, but just look at that now, how they look so transformed compared to what they looked previously. All our products can be bought from the website leatherrepaircompany.com.